Alright guys, so for today, what we're going to be reviewing is basically the rotation and reflection. Some of those. When I give you guys a graph, all we use for reflection, I'll use any line. Right? Just grab the line and flip it. But when I give you guys only the coordinates, I will use only the special cases. And we have a table for that. So if I give you the coordinates, I'll use any special cases. But when I give you guys a graph, I'll use any. Right? Just like so you guys can draw the mirror line and move everything from one side to the other. So looking at the first 8 questions, graph the image of the figure using the transformation given. For rotation 90 degrees clockwise about the origin, we know the rule that xy, xy becomes y negative x for 90 degrees clockwise. So the way I will start this, I will get the coordinates of each. Let's see. I'll get the coordinates of each. Right now, x is 2, 4. The point W is 1, 3. V is 1, 2. And Y is 4, 0. So I know that the rule is xy becomes y negative x. For x prime, I'm going to write 4, negative 2. What do you guys get for W prime? 3, negative 1. Nice. What do we get for V prime? 2, negative 1. And for Y prime, what do you guys get? 0, negative 4. Let me plot those points in. So 4, negative 2. 3, negative 1. 2, negative 1. And 0, negative 4. Let me connect my points. And it looks like I graphed the picture or graphed the paper and flipped it. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise. Right? And then you can follow the picture. It looks like it rotates. So for rotation, I will get the coordinates. We have a patty paper. Remember I mentioned yesterday, you can do the cross and you can literally flip the paper. Have some patty paper if you guys want to use it. But other than that, just go with the coordinates and that will work. For reflection, draw the mirror line and move everything from one side to the other. Right, any questions for the first 8? No questions for the first 8? Alright. Let's take a look at question number 9. Write a rule to describe each transformation. If you can see it, you can see what happens and just write it. If you cannot see it, follow a point. I will not follow neither U, V, or T because on one of the values, on the coordinates, one of the values is 0. On T, U, or V, one of the values is 0. So I cannot tell whether the 0 changes signs or not. A good point to follow will be W, because that one doesn't have a 0. If I look at W, the coordinates of that one are 3, negative 5. If I look at W prime, my values are negative 5, negative 3. So it looks like XY became Y negative X. Right, I'm just following point W. It became like XY became Y negative X. Which rule is that? Rotation 90 degrees clockwise. Okay. So let's just write that thing out. Rotation of 90 degrees clockwise about the Earth. If you could see the picture, if you could see what happened, you could follow it and you could tell it got rotated 90 degrees without following the coordinates, then go for it. Or just write rotation 90 degrees clockwise above the origin. But if you cannot see it, then follow a point to find the root. The same thing with reflection. If you can tell it's reflected, tell me over what. Like what's the mirror like? Reflection across such and such. But if you cannot see it, follow the point. Alright, any questions up until 16? Let's take a look at question number 17. Find the coordinates of the vertices of each figure after the given transformation. Reflection across the y-axis. I know the rule for that one. X, Y, the notation for across the y-axis is negative x, positive y. So for S prime, I'm going to get 5, negative 4. What do you guys get for R prime? 0, negative 2. What do you guys get for Q prime? 1, negative 4. Remember, we changed the sign on each x, including on R, right? 0, negative 0. Even if it doesn't look like we did, we changed the sign on each x. That's what the rule says. So you guys will have some reflection, some rotation, and I'm only using, when I'm giving you guys the coordinates, I'm only using the rules from the table. Right, any questions up until 24? Yes. Well, with the rule, if the x, y, negative x, y, it seems that on the x, we're just going to switch the sign. The y will leave it alone. So we just switched the sign on the negative 5 to make it positive 5, but we left the negative 4 alone. Yeah? Okay. Any other questions up until 24? Let's take a look at number 25. Write a rule to describe each transformation, and I'll say point K is not good to follow. And the reason why, because the x and the y value are the same, so I cannot tell whether they flip x and y. I cannot tell because it's the same number, so point K is not a good number to follow. Point M is not good either, because there's a 0, and I would not be able to tell whether it changes sign or not. So that one is not good to follow either. So in my case, then we follow L. So I'm going to say that XY becomes, seems like we're only switching the value of the sign on the X, so that means we're going to get negative XY. Which rule is that? Reflection across that. Okay. So reflection across y-axis. So I want to say up until the test is next week on Friday. So next week on Friday, we have a test. Now keep the table here on the board. Like, I'll erase it after the test. So I'll have the table here. You guys have access to it, obviously. But if you have a hard time reading it from whatever you're at, if you cannot really read it that well, you're going to read it right on a piece of paper, go for it. You guys want to have your little table, write your own table, so whenever you guys take the quiz, you can have the table on your desk. Like I said, it will be here. I'm not going to erase it. It will be here. But if you cannot read it from where you're at, you can write it and you can use it. Just my thing is, I don't want you guys to memorize it. I want you guys to know how to use it. All right, any questions on your work? All right, let me take roll really quick.